Hey there, boys, girls, the YouTube world. Today, the Duff Dog and I are going to see if we can't get this 1963 Chevrolet Impala on the road that you've been seeing in the background all my videos for way too long. So let's go back in time when me and the old man took the expedition up to northern Minnesota and got this thing drug out of the barn for the first time, and we don't even really know how many years. All right, you're going to have to deal with the chainsaw noise. I got the old man here. We came out here a little bit earlier and we got some 61 bubble top parts, and we bought this 63 two-door hardtop Impala while we were here. So let's get her loaded up. Take a look at it. We got everything pretty much moved out of the way here. So this is a 63 two-door hardtop, gold and white. I think they call this anniversary gold, but I could be wrong. Looks like it's got 1, 2, 3 T3s in it. That must be our lucky number. Neither of these tires are taking air. Neither is this tire. So we got one rear tire that's taking air. This is a pretty dang solid car. Usually that dog leg's the first spot they get it. Yeah. Scuff there in the rocker. All the trim is inside of the car, allegedly. It was a 283 Power Glide car. Bench seat. Yeah. We did get some extra parts with it, so hopefully we got enough there for a car. No drivetrain. We're gonna have to figure that out. Looks like it was Gilpin Motor Company. Oh, I don't know. Joplin, Missouri. Looks like it's a Missouri car anyway. MO. So the story is, this gal, it was her dad's estate. He was big into the 61 to 64s. Obviously we got a bunch of 61, 62 bubble top stuff. She's got a 64. They still have a 61 factory, big block car. And yeah, he was, as you can tell, collecting a lot of parts. So we're gonna snoop through here, see if there's anything else we need. There's some 41 Ford stuff, 34 Ford stuff. There's a flathead in the corner, a couple of 6-cylinder Chevys, W blockheads, more seats, and wheels galore. So, yeah, let's get this thing out of here and see how she looks in the daylight. Looks like we got Effie May as our winch battery sponsor. We gotta get the charge wire fixed on the old tow pig so that this battery doesn't go dead all the time, and then put a good battery on there. There it is, first time seeing daylight in 18 years. Anything good in the trunk? Some more pieces to put it all together.
Yeah.
It's pretty empty though. We should probably get some more parts from you and fill it up, huh? Now we're talking. I really haven't seen the passenger side since it was tucked up against that wall.
Yeah.
A lot of cobwebs.
Oh yeah.
There's a couple of spiders in there, I'm sure. No big dents, no rust, pretty good. I think we're ready to roll. We got the tow pig packed in. I had to plow through a tree to get out of there, but we got all kinds of goodies in here. We'll have to show you when we get home. It's pretty deep, a lot of goodies. Well, we made her back. Of course we did, because the tow pig is the best $300 tow rig ever. Look at all these goodies we got. So we got all kinds of shifters. These three are Hurst. Those are both Competition Plus, and I don't know what that one is, but this is what we got. I think these are stock GM shifters. I don't know. They all kind of got the same design. They're not nearly as robust as the Hurst, but it's kind of a package deal. And then there's this guy. Not much for mounting brackets or the little tangers that, I don't know, the arms. or levers or rods or linkages, whatever they call it. There's a couple here. a hearse boot, some random brackets. Those kind of came in with all the shifters. Same with these door handles. And I think this is a flathead Ford generator pulley. 61 Impala wheel. It's missing the horn ring. A whole bunch of universal joints. Oh frick, it's used. Dang it. Anywho, 369, that's pretty common. So she had a garage sale a couple weeks ago and got rid of a lot of stuff. About half of what she had. So unfortunately we missed out on some of that stuff the second time around, but there's still a lot of stuff there. But so a lot of this stuff was already marked. And the transmissions in the car and the seats that we'll show you in a second, I'd already bought. So she saved those for us. And now we got to go back because we bought another engine too. So, and she hadn't cleaned out all the buildings. So there's going to be more stuff that we're going to find. So excited to go back. Probably not going to happen until next spring because winter's coming and yada, yada, yada. So here is a pair of T10s. Her dad, Kent, I believe is his name, like labeled everything. Mike at inline and cloquet complete. So I don't know if that's where he got it or that's where he checked it. Oh, I'm guessing Mike at inline is probably where he worked. He checked it out. Oh, I can't read this tag, but he was really good at tagging and bagging stuff. This one says T10 wide. I think these are both 62 4-speeds, she said. You can tell the ratios because of the way that they are. Just kidding. Because they got these grooves in here. If it's no groove, 1 groove, 2 groove, 3 groove, I think that usually tells you your ratio. I'm guessing both of these are the same ratio. So they're both wide ratio, whatever that is. A couple of transmission mounts were in with those. I think these are 61 bumper guards. Got a couple of dings, but I think the green mark was $3, so $3 a piece. Got this cool oil bath air cleaner. I just really like the styling of these things. Some 15 by, I think they're 7s or 8s. I'm just a geek for wheels, so we snagged up every 15-inch 4 3/4 wheel we could, even some 4.5s. Flathead Ford, like a 41 to 48 Ford distributor with the dual points. I got a bunch of these, but they're just handy to have when you need one. $5, what the heck. Like I said, I got a bunch of these 15-inch wheels. 61 to 64 radiator. Basically new old stock tailgate. She said the pickup had a camper in it. They bought it with a camper in it. They sold it with a camper in it. Person didn't get the tailgate, so we got a really sweet 74 GMC tailgate. 61 to 64 automatic column. Some really nice Model A radiators. I can't believe they were still there. She had them marked $15. I mean, I didn't look inside, but I mean, they're gotta be worth that. In brass, 66 Chevy HD radiator. It was in a box, super good shape. And then just a random late model. Oh, I think it's 67 to 72 actually, because it's got the curved neck. I think that was 67 to 72 only. I believe these are like 65, 6 seats. I'm not sure. I don't believe that they're 61 to 64. Anywho, yeah, we got these bucket seats with the car. I did get some wheels and tires on the car so that it'll roll. Funny thing, that's a Firestone. I don't know what this is, but that is a 4.5-inch wheel that they just crammed on there. I was looking at the clips and I thought, it's like a 49 to 54 Chevy car wheel, you know, with the inside clips, but nope. She is a 4.5-inch Mopar wheel. And one of these tires is actually a Kmart tire. I think it's this front one. It even had Kmart wheel weights on it. Oh yeah, the big K right there. I think the size even says it. Yeah, it's a KM78, the old Kmart 78. I should have saved a wheel weight to show you guys, but anyway, everything seems like it rolls. It's missing a lug nut there. It's missing a wheel stud on both the rears, so I'll have to press those in, but this car is way good. It was packed full of trim already. We packed some more wheels in there. I think I ended up getting 10 wheels. Like that's a 40 Ford wheel. That's a 16, but just got a ton of 15-inch wheels. This radiator was in there. Again, I think it's 67 to 72. But yeah, that was already in the car. Checked okay. So I mean, like he tagged everything. 327 stuff. Just, it's really cool that he labeled everything. So you know what you got. Headliner looks respectable. It's kind of a shame this stuff's sitting on the seat. So we need to get a window for this car and get it cleaned up. Factory AC car. I don't know if I pointed that out. Yeah, it looks like it's got power steering. Found that out when we were chaining it down. So I'm assuming it's got probably power brakes too. Anyway, yeah, this car is super, super, super solid. Like I said, they always rust on the dog legs right there, don't they, Duff? And this thing is way good. Just a little bit of rust right there. In there. Not a big deal. Couple little, they're not even whiskey dents. Those are like tequila shot dents. Just kidding. If you do tequila shots, you're on the floor and you can't drive at all. The valances, they're a little chewy. But I mean, this thing is way, way, way good. A little door dinger there. Yeah, it's a shame they took all the trim off because that's going to take me a lifetime. I'll probably never get it on. I'll just get it and drive it without it. At least they left the trim on up there. And then there is a little hooey in the bottom of this fender. And then I don't know if they took the inner fender loose, trying to fix that up. Duff's going to check it out for us. Oh yeah, there's a wheel stud missing there too. And one there. So 3 wheel studs are missing. Remind us to fix those. And then it looks like they touched up the spot where the paint was chipping with some primer. Oh well. Little dinger in the hood. And I think, yeah, I think this piece of trim was dinged up pretty good. You can see the fender's dinged up, and then they just put a nicer piece on there to fix the trim part, but the fender's still kind of hooeyed up. Super, super solid car. We gotta clean the rest of the car out. I think I got an extra bench seat in the trunk. And I don't even remember what all we got in there. The trunk latch was missing, so the old man did some MacGyver Boy Scout trunk tied, so let me get that undone. So yeah, oh, I got a couple Model A windshield frames. I think Dad got some hubcaps, or I don't know, there's hubcaps in there. I think that's a 61 or 2 Super Sport console. Not really sure. It was a console, so we snagged up. Some bumper guards for like 41 Ford. Nothing too crazy back here, mostly just trim for the car. But yeah, a lot of good stuff. So now we got to figure out what we're going to do with this thing. I do have that 283 out of that 67 4-door post. That thing ran really good, so all that in theory should just drop right in. Hopefully we're not missing too much stuff. But I would like to get a window in this thing. There is a piece of glass up in there, but I feel like there's like a glass surround, the stainless that goes around these windows. Oh yeah, we got to find that. That right there. So we're gonna have to dig all this stuff out of here and inventory it. Figure out what we're missing. Hey Duff, he's like, just let me in at the critters. All right, we'll check it out. Hopefully the window regulator and stuff's over there too. Hopefully. Oh man, this door shuts so good. These cars were just solid. Well, back on the old 63 here. Didn't know what we were gonna do with it. I think we decided we're gonna give her a little transformation. So we pressure washed underneath the hood. Pour 15 to everything. I really love that paint, except for I don't love the price. The engine mounts are missing. Good thing you can get those on eBay. I think it was like 60 bucks for the pair. Pretty reasonable. We gotta bolt those in yet, and then we're ready to stab in the engine. But check this engine out, Duff. This is the 283 out of the 1967 Impala 4-door post car. Check that video out if you haven't, in the Power Glide. So we took the Power Glide, cleaned her all up, got a new rear mount, got a new pan gasket and filter. We put a shift shaft seal in it because that was leaking pretty bad. We put a front seal in it, resealed the engine, pan gasket, front and rear mains, valve cover gaskets, distributor gasket, cleaned up the distributor. We got new cap, rotor points, plugs, all that good stuff. New thermostat. This housing is not going to work on this car, but I do have the right housing. We got to have the straight one in order for our stock 63 radiator hoses to work. We got her all cleaned up, painted up. Still got to put the fuel pump on it. Still got to flare this transmission cooler line that was twisted off. I apparently wasn't thinking when I did it. Wasn't using 2 wrenches or something. But good news is they got this big long loop in there, so we got plenty of length to do that. And then we rebuilt the carburetor, blasted the manifolds. We had those blasted in the in town at Job Erection. Those guys have super awesome turnaround. Drop it off in the morning, they're done at night. Super budget friendly, real great guys. Check them out if you're in the southeast North Dakota area. They do all my wheels and odds and ends. I haven't taken a frame to them, but I know they do things as big as frames. Got a new fuel pump for this thing. Like I said, ultrasonic cleaned the carburetor. We got that all dialed in and set up, ready to go. So yeah, we're pretty much ready to set this thing in. Just got to put the engine mounts in there. We did put new engine mounts on this side, and this thing's gonna be ready to button back up and hopefully be doing burnouts. Just kidding. Power Glide cars, X-frame cars with 283s are not gonna do burnouts. Maybe donuts, but you know we're gonna try. All right, let's get back at her. Okay, mine's through.
Well, we're sitting in the oil pan, ain't we?
Are you kidding me? Well, we come to the conclusion that the oil pan from the 67 is hitting on the crossmember of the 63, so I think we're gonna have to slide it back out and find a different oil pan. Nice work, GM. How you can see, this oil pan's kind of got this double hump dip thing right here, and we just need one with the single rear sump. So back to the drawing boards. And you can see where she's hitting there. Never mind those scuffs, that was us taking it in and out. It's always something, right, Duff? Dang it. Scratched up the new paint on the oil pan and the cross member. Ah, the old 68 327 that came out of, what, 81-2 Chevy Suburban. The gift that keeps on giving. Oh, I think we stole the drain plug out of it already. So we're gonna have to find a new one of those, but we're gonna let this thaw out a bit and see how that oil pan's only got the one dip in it. Yeah, Duff says, I see. We're gonna steal the oil pan off of this thing, and we're probably gonna have to steal the pickup. We'll do a little measuring first for the oil pump. The oil pump pickup. You got to have those matched up with your oil pan, and you want it to be adjusted down. What are you doing? No, we already tried getting that thing running. I think it's got a broken rod or something. I don't remember what the deal was. Yeah, we already stripped the heads off, flex plate, starter, timing cover, pulleys. I don't know. There ain't a whole lot left of it. What? What are you saying we should save? I don't even know what's up there. The push rod for the fuel pump, that's about it. Okay, we're gonna let that thaw a bit, and then hopefully that, they do make some different oil pans too, the way the dippy do here is. I know they make some different gaskets, so I'm not guaranteeing that's gonna work. We might still be SOL, but Duff is expediting the thawing process by digging the snow off. It's a small block, it's a mouse motor, so she's like, there's gotta be some mice in here. What? You are an interesting cat. Let's be honest, everybody's here to watch for the dog, so. Keep up the good work, Duff. All right, let's go eat some lunch. Well, the oil pan saga continues. That is definitely not my 68 327 engine. I'll show you more on that in a minute. So this has got the right dip to it, but see how this pan kind of runs at an angle? And this has got this pretty good curve right there. That's an issue. It's not bolting up there, it's hitting our oil filter. And you might ask, but Mortske, how can it hit the oil filter? That has like the world's largest canister oil filter on it. Well, let me enlighten you on what this engine may or may not be. You didn't sniff it out, Duff. So it's got a road draft tube, so it's, I don't know, pre-72 or whatever, when road draft tubes were a thing. But notice how it doesn't have the side engine mounts? So this is like a 55 to 57 engine. Also, it doesn't have a provision for an oil filter even. So I'm pretty sure this is like a 55 or 265. It's got these huge alignment dowels. Like, usually they don't even stick out that far, and then they never stick out the front side, so I don't know what is going on there. But that donor is not donating anything to this project. So, back to the drawing boards to find a different oil pan. I don't know what else I got. Only other engine I can think about here that's in the scrap pile is a TBI, so it's a one-piece rear main seal, and that is most definitely not gonna work, is it, Duff? So, we'll have to see if we can scrape up an oil pan. All right, I was able to pick up an oil pan from another local yard. This is off a little bit later small block. Anyway, it's the right one that we need. We used the same gaskets, re-gooped her up. She should be ready to go, hopefully. We'll see what happens. All right, we got the engine set in place. Engine mounts are in. Transmission crossmember that we stole out of the 61 Bel Air 4-door post 6-cylinder power glide car. Now we're working on the shift linkage. A lot of stuff is missing on this car, so we're trying to make something out of the 67 stuff and some other stuff that I got laying around. The power steering hoses, of course, are different from the 67 to the 63, and we can't use the 63 hoses because the pump fittings are different, so we're gonna have to make some stuff work there. Thought I had a radiator laying around, but it is for a manual transmission car, so it doesn't have the transmission cooler, so we either gotta put an add-on cooler, find a different radiator. I need to find the right thermostat neck that sticks straight forward. The kickdown stuff is all pretty much hooked up. What else? What else? Oh, wire harness. I just noticed that there's no headlight harness, no voltage regulator. The only harness we got is kind of pigtailed off there. I found a harness in the car. It's a partial harness. I don't know if this car came out of a junkyard and somebody just cut the harness up. And there's a couple of headlight connectors, you know, but this harness is cut off as well. So I gotta go online and do some looking for some parts, see if we can come up with a radiator, see what we can come up with for some wire harnesses. I know you can make your own stuff, but I'm not gonna spend an entire week making a harness. You should be able to pick them up for, I mean, we'll probably have some money into it, but at least then it's done right. Yeah, same thing with the radiator. Just buy a good one, be done. Instead of cobbling some old piece of crap together. I did have a really nice redone 61 to 64 heavy duty radiator here that I picked up. It's got a brand new core in it, but it's not for a automatic transmission. Doesn't have the connectors for that. So guess we gotta build ourselves a 4-speed car, huh, Duff? Yeah, that's just the way it goes when you buy somebody else's derelict abandoned project. But we shall power through it. We'll get it figured out one way or another. I really wish I had a 63 parts car around here for the shift linkage and wire harness and all that. Really the only parts car I got around here is that 61, which is outside. Maybe that engine harness, or not the engine harness, but the headlight harness might be the same. Engine harness, I'm guessing, is going to be different because it's a 6-cylinder car, but we can maybe make it work. So I might take a look at that. Again, the radiator's stolen out of that one, so we can't use that radiator. Story of my life. And that's got the big clunky cast iron power glide, so we tried to steal a shift linkage out of that altogether. The beauty of working on old cars is just great. It's a lot of fun, ain't it, Duff? All of the fun. All right, let's keep plugging away. Let's go jump on the computer and see what we can find for parts. Time for another update on this thing. We had to do a little fabric cobbling to make a bracket to go to the transmission because the 67 transmission is different than the 63 and the linkage is different. So we made a little boomerang whoop-de-doo bracket. Kickdown's hooked up, throttle linkage is hooked up. Mojo cleaned up the alternator and we got that on there. We got new power steering hoses, but they just weren't going to work with the 67 power steering pump, and these got that Ram assist. It's not actually that great of a system. I mean, one of my wagon works pretty good, but these, when they start leaking, you can have a whole mess of problems. So call up Auto City Classics, the good folks there, and we got a power steering setup, like a 605 style box coming with the power steering pump, hoses, everything. And then we got a disc brake kit coming from them. Uses a stock width, and you know, so you don't have to worry about the wheels rubbing on the fender, and it clears 14-inch wheels, all that good stuff. Power discs, it's got the booster, it's got the lines, everything we need. And then we also got a radiator from those folks, because the radiator that we had, of course, doesn't have holes for, or provisions for a transmission cooler, so we got one from them. And then it's also kind of notched out for the power steering box. So we spent a whole bunch of money today. Oh yeah, and then we went to Summit and we got an American Auto, I think it's American Auto Wire, headlight to tail light, full harness. It was pretty good money, like 750 bucks, but I looked up some used harnesses for these things, and just the underhood harness, a used one, you know, still 60 years old, was 250 bucks on eBay. And we still need the one under the dash, and no saying that that one under the hood's gonna be any good. So I said, heck with it, let's just get the whole harness. This car's worth it. So threw a pile of money at this car today. So this video better do well. That 283 sure does look pretty dang good in there though. All right, we are out of parts for now, so I think we're gonna kick this in the corner for a bit and go back to working on whatever it is that we're working on around here. Shop's kind of empty. We're going to drag some more stuff in, Duff. All right, we are back on the 63 Impala again. Finally got this thing on the hoist for the first time. Well, this is literally the only wheel that doesn't have a stud busted off, so we're going to see if we can round up some wheel studs. I got some left over from the 77 Camaro, the rear, which these cars use the same all the way around because they're drum brakes. The Camaro has disc brakes, so they have different ones in the front, but I have some left over from that Camaro, so we should have enough. We got 3 of them, one on that side, one on each corner back there. So we're gonna put some new wheel studs in these things. Let's take a look at this car while we got her up in the air. We got the tank pulled out. That tank actually looks really good on the inside, so I think we're gonna save that one and we're gonna throw it in the 61 bubble top, and we'll put the new one in here just because the bubble top's a budget deal. And we'd already bought this one, so before we throw that one in the bubble top, we'll check the sending unit, make sure it's good. Otherwise, we'll get a sending unit coming for the bubble top. There is a little bit of rot in the trunk here. Nothing terrible, but it's got some rot nonetheless. Shocks are the original Delco pleasurizers. It looks like it was a factory dual exhaust car. You can see the exhaust over there. And there's a hanger on this side. Another hanger there. The brakes. This is your primary. This is your secondary. Short ones go up front. That's how you memorize that. It's just like taking class pictures. Short kids in the front, long ones in the back. These things are paper thin. So we got all new brakes for that. The drums look really good. So we'll probably throw those on the old Amco brake lathe and true them up a bit. Still got a lot of undercoating underneath here. She's good. Let's take a look at the bottom side. Yeah, look at how like there's a little bit of rot, a couple of pinholes there, a couple pinholes there in the lower rear quarter. But the rockers are freaking gold on this thing. Dog legs are good over here. This car's way too nice for us. The only rot that I saw is right here in the rear floor pan. The body supports are good. Front floors, absolutely solid on this thing. Oh, yeah, this floor pan is a little bit soft, but it's not even that bad. Like, you could probably just piece some pieces in there, but we'll probably round up the patch panel at some point, or the next guy can. But this floor pan, super good. I don't know if the window leaked over there or what. We still got to finish bolting in the cross member. We stole this cross member from the 61 Bel Air because this car was in pieces, so we never got a cross member for it. Still got to find a drive shaft. Looks like the pinion seal was leaking a bit. It's not a posi, unfortunately. Looks like we'll have to round up a U-bolt strap as well. We got all new brake hoses. We got new brake pads, or brake shoes, wheel cylinders, master cylinder, all that stuff. We might have a surprise up front as well, but yeah, everything looks pretty good. The bottom of this car isn't all thrashed up like a lot of the cars we see up here. The cross members tacoed over, and you know, they jumped some railroad tracks, Duke Boy style. This car's pretty good. Other than this, but I think that's just from somebody pushing it around with something. And I think we got to find this valance in here as well. But anyway, we're gonna get a fuel tank in there. We're gonna get these rear brakes gone through and get some wheel studs in there. Like I said, got a couple busted off back here. I don't know what it is. GM and their 7/16 wheel stud versus the 1/2 inch that Fords and Mopars use. They like to break off, or GM guys just like to over tighten them or what. But we're gonna get those fixed, slide the axles out, or maybe we can just knock them out of there. Who knows? I like pressing them in, but we'll see. We're gonna get them in there one way or another. What we got here, Duffers? We fired up the old parts cannon. We reached out to Classic Industries. All this stuff came from those guys. Those guys are in the Twin Cities area. I think it's Isanti. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong because I can't pronounce Minnesota names. But anyway, we got a power disc brake kit. It's got, I believe this is a 8-inch booster. We did some assembling. This is a Corvette style master cylinder. I think this is a CPP. No, the steering is CPP. Anyway, we assembled the master to the booster and then these brackets to the booster. Hopefully we got those on right. 50-50-90 rule. So 50-50 odds. We're wrong 90% of the time. And then we installed this adjuster, whatever length, clevist, yada, yada, yada. And then there's this boot that goes through the firewall. So hopefully that's all installed correctly. There's going to be some adjustment here. There's a little tiny nut on the stud that comes through this booster. We had to adjust that because otherwise our master cylinder wouldn't sit flush until you tightened the nuts. And then, so that was going to put pressure on the master cylinder. I've seen a lot of problems with people not doing that. And you'll get pressure on the brakes. Your brakes will get hot. So make sure you adjust that. I think it's a 1/4 inch or a 7mm hex on that nut. We turned it in a ways. And then also there's a sleeve or like a bushing that goes in the back of this master cylinder. I don't know why some of them have it, some of them don't, but anyway, we had to put that in there. Otherwise you'd have to push the pedal in like that far before it would contact. There's a picture here for how you're supposed to assemble the proportioning valve. Looks like the proportioning valve lays underneath the master cylinder. And our lines look nothing like that. We got it in there, but Classic Industries, you should get a different picture because that is not relevant. So that's on there now. And then also the proportioning valve sits backwards from where it is in there, which we're gonna have to run a line out the back side here. I don't really care for. I should have painted this. I should have painted all this stuff, but you know, we don't have time here. So this thing comes with 4 3/4 bolt pattern rotors. They are drilled and slotted, I guess. Comes with new bearings, so we will grease those and put them in there. And then it comes with our caliper brackets and our calipers. I assume these are like a metric GM caliper of sorts. Comes with our hoses. So hopefully everything goes pretty swimmingly there. There's several different disc brake kits. You can get them just the brakes. You can get just the booster, yada, yada. I got the whole shoot and match. There's actually lines. I forgot to unbox those, but comes with all the pre-bent lines. So never had one like that. So that'll be pretty handy, hopefully. And these are the stock width, and then they'll clear the stock 14-inch wheels. They make ones that are, it's a more budget-friendly kit, but it pushes the wheels out like a 1/2 inch per side or something like that. Anyway, it pushes them out, and I want to keep our stock track width. Not going to probably run the stock 14s, but the next owner could if they really wanted to. Mainly the track width is what I was concerned about. And then this is the power steering kit. This is a CPP brand. It uses their 500 series metric GM box. You got to buy the Pitman arm and then the drag link setup for a manual steering car. Since this is a power steering car, if you had a manual steer car, you wouldn't have to buy that. But I also opted for the power steering pump, and then that comes with the hoses and the brackets as well. We're gonna have to do a little figuring on the brackets because I don't know how that goes, and there was no instructions that came with the power steering kit, so we're just gonna basically completely wing. Oh, never mind. There was a page that tells you need to cut off the stock steering shaft and slide it in here and either drill this and or weld it. So we're going to take a look, see what we can do there to do that. And then of course that depends on if you've got a stock column or a factory GM column. Then we got to remount these holes to 7/16 because these are 7/16 hardware, even though they clearly are metric. So I'm guessing they're like an M10, and then it gives you torque specifications and all that. So we're gonna have to do a little modifying on the steering shaft. We'll have to do a little figuring on how all this brackets goes. I spent some time last night laying this all out and figuring out how this kind of goes on the pump, or I think how it goes. So we'll see if I guessed properly. But reason I went with this disc brake kit is because by the time you spend all the money to go through the front brakes, then you're about halfway there, and then you've only got a single reservoir master cylinder, and we get the upgrade of discs, and then we get the upgrade of power brakes as well. So, and then I figured we could take a lot of the parts from this car, the front brake stuff, and we could probably put them on the bubble top. So it's kind of a win-win for both projects. And I've never done one of these, and I've always kind of wanted to because I've wanted to put disc brakes on my wagon. So we'll see how this goes, and then maybe we'll upgrade that car as well. All right, and then same thing with the power steering. The power steering on these cars just notoriously leak. Like, look at that. You can see all, look at that control arm. Hardly any grease on it. And this control arm is just packed with grease from all this stuff leaking. Knock on wood, the one on my wagon doesn't leak, and it works really well, but that's one of the few. All right. Let's start putting some parts on. We didn't film any of it, but we took all the brakes off of the front of the 63 here, the backing plates and everything. Got her all cleaned up, ready to put our disc brake swap on here. Really, this top pivot point where all of your shoes, that's your pivot point where your springs go around, yada, yada, right up there. You gotta take that off, and then there's 2 bolts down here that hold the backing plate, which also holds your lower control arm, lower steering arm. You know what I mean. It's pretty much all there is, other than, you know, taking your spindle nut off. But we're gonna save all those parts, clean them up, and put them on another project. Okay, I'll just tell you right now, I'd already bought the brakes, the drum brake stuff for this before I decided to go to discs, because we can use all that stuff on the bubble top. So all that stuff's cleaned up, ready to go. We're gonna put it on the bubble top. Bearings are packed, everything looked good. We had to put one outer bearing in there, but anyway, enough of that. Duff says that's all we do is brakes around this place. So let's put some discs on this son of a gun. I already got the bearings packed. They're right here. I got one of my fancy bearing packers and yeah, slide our bearings on into our hubs. We'll put our new wheel seals in there, and then we'll maybe read the instructions figure out where these brackets go. And then it should be just like any other disc brake job that you're doing. New dust caps, new hardware, all of the new. We should probably round up the new brake lines too, eh, Duff? You want to read the instructions while I do all the manual labor? Yeah, you're a lot of help. Thanks, pal. Super straightforward install. I'll walk you through it on the other side now that I got it figured out. There was a couple of spots kind of gave me a loop. Gave me a loop, threw me for a loop. Yeah, loops getting thrown in them. Where the heck did that term come? Getting thrown for a loop. Is that like baseball terminology or fighter airplanes? I don't know. Comment down below. Thrown for a loop. Okay. All right, on to the driver's side. First thing you're going to want to do is grab your lower bracket, which is the smaller of the two brackets, and then you're going to grab your 7/16 fine thread grade 8 hardware. Slide those through the bottom holes here, and then you line up your lower, your only steering arm on this side. There's only one on the other side. Push those bolts through. Again, these bolts are going to hold this lower caliper bracket, and it's also going to hold your steering arm. These have steel locking nut on them. You know, make sure these are tight, because not only are they holding your brakes, they're holding your steering. So pretty much your lives are in the hands of these two pieces of hardware. So we're glad we got good hardware. You're gonna want to make sure it's tight. Once you've got your lower bracket in place, you grab your upper bracket, grab your 1/2 inch fine thread grade 8 hardware, bolt the lower bracket to the upper bracket. These have nylock locking nuts. Again, good quality hardware for your brakes, because without brakes, bad things happen. Hold on! We're gonna want to snug both of those up. These brackets are reversible. So if you wanted to put the calipers on the leading side of the spindle as opposed to the trailing spindle, you can do so. I like them on the back side. I don't know why. That's where I think they should be. But you can do it the other way if you've got clearance issues. They said for sway bar clearance, but our sway bar is up here. Anyway, we're putting them on the back side. We are hitting it from the back side. Now you're gonna want to slide your loaded brake drum on there with your rear bearing or inner bearing and your inner wheel seal. And then I'll grab the outer bearing, the washer, and the castle nut. And then once we get that snugged up, then we'll put our cotter key in. Outer bearing going in, keyed washer going onto the spindle, and then we got our castle nut. Fine thread castle nut came with the kit. We're gonna use our 1 1/8" wrench to snug that up. We're gonna get her all the way snug, and then we're gonna back it off about 1/6 of a turn. Let's get your cotter key in there. Bend the tangs over on your cotter key. I like to use pliers. Sometimes I'll use a pair of side cutters. Alexa is barking at me in the corner for some reason. I don't know what her problem is.
According to an Alexa Answers contributor, yes, orange is one of the varieties of colors that watermelon flesh comes in. Did that answer your question?
Did you hear that? I did not ask her any questions about watermelons and or oranges, but now you know that you can get orange fleshy watermelons. What the heck? And we're gonna give our dust cap the old tap, tap, taparoo.
Just tap it in. Just tap it in. Give it a little tappy. Tap, tap, taparoo.
Since these are brand new dust caps, I don't want to smack them in the center and ding them all up, because there's nothing I hate worse than a dinged up dust cap. So we're gonna try tapping around the edges here. Getting her started. Sometimes they're a real bugger.
Bucket me.
Son of a biscuit. Once we get her started, use our chisel. Now for the finishing touch, our caliper. Seen it a dozen times. I have never done it. Not because I don't make mistakes, but always make sure your bleeder's on the top side. If you put the right on the left and the left on the right, the bleeder's gonna be on the bottom side. They're not gonna bleed out for you. It's gonna cause you issues, so always make sure your bleeder is facing up. Or don't, whatever. These are Allen bolts. They take a 3/8 socket, 3/8 Allen socket. And yes, we probably should have painted these, but you know, we got to get this thing put together and rolling and sold, or we're going to lose the shop. How long has it been since we said that? A while. All right, that's going to wrap her up. She is a roller. We're going to bend this scratcher tab for when your brakes are worn out. That scratches and lets you know that they're worn out. It must have got bent in shipping. You can hear it scratching there. So we don't want that scratching just yet. Once you've got your old brake hose removed, take your new brake hose, slide your banjo bolt with a copper washer on either side, hook that up to your caliper, snug it up by hand, loop that over to your existing brake line, and that pretty much wraps her up underneath here. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So easy a caveman can do it.
It's so easy. A caveman could do it.
What's that supposed to mean?
Let's get some power steering parts put on the old Gold 63. So the first thing we're gonna do is pull off all this old stuff. We gotta take the drag link off, the pitman arm off, steering box, this ram assist, all the lines, and then yeah, take the sector off, disconnect it from the column. We're gonna have to do some modification there, but let's get all this stuff off there first, go from there. Pretty much got everything wrapped up down here. Yeah, same assembly process as taking it apart. Only thing is we had to ream these holes out to 7/16. They had 3/8 hardware in there before. I don't have the pitman arm tightened up because it can be clocked 4 different ways, and we got to make sure the steering box and the wheels are centered before we hook that up. And then I also need to put the cotter keys in these castle nuts. So I'm gonna wait till everything's finalized before we put those in there, and then probably just forget them and then crash and wreck and burn in a fiery ball of amazingness. That doesn't sound like any fun, does it, Duff? All right, now we're gonna set her on the ground, and then we're gonna figure out if it's centered, and then we're gonna get our steering shaft hooked up, and then it's pretty much just down to, like I said, tidying everything up, and then putting the pump on there and the hoses. Everything's went pretty swimmingly on there. Yeah, I know. Now would be the time to put new tie rod ends in, but it's not in the budget. All right, here's where you got to do a little bit of modification other than reaming out the holes in the frame rail. You can see our steering shaft is significantly longer, so we need to make that shorter. What they tell you to do is to cut this shaft off and then slide it in there and bolt it, but this is a 3/4 inch round, and this looks like a 1 inch double D. I think. Anyway, we're gonna try to get this shaft off of there, and they tell you just to grind it down and drill a hole and either bolt it or pin it so you can take it apart. They said, or you can weld it, but then it's harder to take apart. I don't know. I guess I would rather have a weld than a bolt or a pin, because, yeah. To be honest, I would rather have a piece of 1-inch double D shaft that goes from here, and then have a knuckle up here that hooks to the steering column. So I'm gonna take this all apart and try to figure out what splines and yada yada so we can do this right, because I don't like cobbling steering or brakes. So we'll see what we can do here. One thing I guess I never knew about these is these rag joints. Everything's it's basically non-serviceable. I suppose you could grind all these connections off and put bolts in there after you took it apart, but the later model ones, like the square body Chevys, are all bolted together like this, so that's kind of interesting. That's pretty neat.
That's pretty neat.
But so there's two options. You can take it apart at the splines here, but then we're never going to find a spline shaft that goes into that. And I think we can take it apart at the knuckle here, and then maybe we can take it apart at the end of the steering shaft. So we're gonna take her apart and see what we got for options. I'm gonna see if I can't just pop this clip off here, and then I'm guessing there's kind of like a CV joint type deal in there, ball and socket. Take that apart, and maybe I can take that ball and socket off the end of that, and then it might be spline, and then I can put a knuckle up there. We'll see. This boot is torn anyway, so if we were doing this right, we would be putting a new Das boot in there.
It's no shoe! It's just boot!
All right, you guys are gonna learn with me. Let's see what happens when we take this clip off. So, watch this go shooting across the shop. Good news is we do have a parts car out back in that 61 Bel Air 4-door, so if we do lose something, or if we screw something up, we can just steal it off of that car. Ew. I can almost guarantee you that's 1963 grease, maybe even 62. Whatever that stuff is, that is some nasty stuff. So, I guess I was hoping to find something that was, you know, bolted on and splined down here. I think our best option to do this right would be to knock this pin out, take this to a dammit, and have him machine it down to a double D. I believe this is 3/4 inch, same as the other one. I'll measure it and verify, but so if you take this sleeve off and this pin out, and then machine 2 flats on it to a 3/4, and then you can put a knuckle that goes from 3/4 to 1 inch double D, and then you put the double D going down. I know they make a straight round 3/4 that you could put on there and weld, but I don't like that, because then if it were ever to break at the weld, you're SOL, and also, you know, you're completely relying on that weld, whereas if you have a double D style shaft, it's relying on those flats plus your weld or your pin or whatever you have. So there's a reason that they go with splines and double Ds. So let's do a little more research and see what we can come up with. All right, here's the knuckle that came with the kit. Here's some standard 3/4 inch double D shaft, and it is pretty sloppy in there. I don't like that. So this, I believe, is a 30 spline 3/4 inch shaft coming out of that steering box. So I have ordered a 30 spline 3/4 inch knuckle. It'll go from that spline to a 3/4 inch double D, and then what we're gonna get a dammit to machine this down, basically making a double D out of this piece. So we're gonna remain using this knucklage on this end, and then it'll slide into a double D on the other end, and then we have an actual knuckle instead of these rag joints, so it'll be much more gooder. So we're gonna be waiting on that knuckle and then some machine work, but that's gonna be what the plan is. So we shall continue on working on the power steering pump and go from there. All right, we got our power steering pump mounted. Everything went pretty smooth there. Just use these 2 bolts down here in the bottom of the block, and then this lower water pump bolt. I did use a little bit longer bushing than they provided because the bolt bottomed out. I know I could have shortened the bolt up, but also it was kind of pulling this bracket in, so I didn't really like it doing that, so I just cut one. That one was about 1 inch long, this is 1 1/4 inch, so yeah. The only other problem is our power steering pulley is bent. It lines up with the front pulley on the crankshaft, which is good. The kit came with a pulley for the crankshaft, but we won't have to use it. We'll use our stock one. But we're gonna have to get a hold of the supplier and get a pulley that isn't bent, because yeah, that isn't gonna be good. All right, now let's just get the hoses on there, and we should pretty much have the power steering wrapped up as far as we can go for now anyway. A damage showed up, and I showed him what I wanted machined off of that shaft. And like I said, we got the knuckle on order, so it's about as far as we can go other than the hoses. So I'll get those on there. Probably not a whole lot to show, kind of like bolting that on. It's just 3 bolts and bada bing, bada boom. Hose routing went pretty simple. It gets kind of close to this upper control arm and inner fender, but kind of that's how they were from the factory, so not much you can do. Also got a belt on there. It's a 15-360. It tightens up pretty good, and there's not a lot of clearance between the power steering cap and this lower alternator bracket, but it sneaks out of there. I tried it. Again, that's probably how they were from the factory as well. You could maybe get away with like a 15-350 belt, but this one should be just fine. We're about midway in the adjustment. Just depends on how close you want it up there versus down here. So like I said, it's right in the middle. So I think we're about done with what we can do there. Then we gotta see if we can get the master cylinder mounted up to the firewall. Looks like we're missing these 2 bolts here, so I don't know if that's the lower column mount. You're gonna have to crawl underneath the dash and see what's going on there. Hopefully we don't have to go digging in a snowbank in a parts car to see if we are missing anything. Not real exciting times when it's double digits below 0 to be looking for that stuff. Oh, you're so much help, Duff. What would I do without you? Master boosters all mounted up. It turns out the studs were just missing on the other side, so I just stuck 2 bolts through with whiz nuts on the back side. We got our boot stuck in place to seal up around the firewall. I did have to ream out the pedal linkage, or the pedal, in order to fit the pin through, just a hair. So it's not a direct bolt-in kit, which, let's be honest, nothing ever is. And of course, I had these brackets on backwards, so I had to flip those around. And it gets awful close to the dipstick, Jimmy.
Think with your dipstick, Jimmy!
So, yeah, that might be interesting. Oh yeah, the dipstick shoots right into the bottom of the booster. Awesome. So I don't know what we're gonna have to do there. Get creative, I suppose. Who needs a dipstick? It's not like this old 283 is gonna burn any oil, and it sure as heck ain't gonna leak any oil, seeing how we got her all freshly sealed up. But yeah, that's kind of all done there. We still got to put a fitting on the back of our intake for vacuum and hook her up to our booster here. Not a big deal. This was not a power brake engine. Oh, also the air cleaner. Let's see if that clears. Oh, it's gonna be close, but I think it'll clear. Oh, she is tight right up against the master. So we might want to look for a different air cleaner. Or I suppose we could take this little tang out of here and spin her a couple of degrees and maybe re-weld something on there. We'll see. Cross that bridge when we get there, I guess. Get her running first. And now let's put some lines on it and see how those fit. You gonna show them the brake line debacle? Here's what we get for brake lines. So clearly it's not an entire kit, because no way these would reach to the rear axle. So I'm thinking there's a left and a right that go into the proportioning valve, and then there's the rear that goes from the proportioning valve to the T that goes to the rear of the car. Well, the T goes down and then to the rear and to the left to the right. So I'm guessing we're gonna have to plug something off there. And then this looks like a slight bend here to fit in the box, so I'm guessing we gotta lay those pretty straight. And then I'm guessing these 2 ends go into the existing brake hoses that we replaced. And then since this has got that bigger fitting, that's gonna go into our proportioning valve, and then it's got these silly bends here, which this one has as well. So I'm guessing those are both gonna go into our proportioning valve. Same deal, this one, I'm guessing that goes in a proportioning valve, this goes in that block. Really not gonna be much to see, so I'll show you once we get her all figured out. You gonna show them what you got done? Yeah, just clean that spot on the floor by holding the dust down. We got all our brake lines ran. Kind of looks like spaghetti down there, but that's the way they were bent up. They actually fit surprisingly well. And the way that they run these is this one here. Where's that one at? This short one here went to this wheel. This one goes to that wheel. And so we got rid of the T that was there. And then we got rid of the T that was over there. And then we run this one over to that side where that T was. And then we just put a union there. And then that goes right to the back. So worked out pretty nifty. There used to be just one line coming out of there, went to a T, and then it T'd off to that wheel. And then over to that wheel, and there was a T over there where it went from that wheel and this front to the back. And so we added one more, or two more clamps on the cross member where the existing line was. We used that to hold one of the lines, and then we blew out the fuel line while we were underneath there. Also noticed we're missing a shock on that side, so we'll get some shocks ordered up. But we're pretty much ready to bleed brakes. And then while we had her up in the air, we stuck a 215/70 15x7 torque thrust, the original one, the straight ones, up front. And then in the back, I think she looks pretty good. That is about as much tire as we get in there. When we lift it up, it actually touches right there, but we want to get her down just a little bit. We're going to bring her down a whole lot in the front. And then we got a 255/70 on the rear. I don't think a 275 would fit in there. You might be able to tuck her in there if you did her just right. But so I think we're going to go 15x7s all the way around, and then a 215/70 in the front and a 255/70 in the rear. No, Duff, we can't quite go for a ride. So now I need to figure out if we got to order springs or if we're going to just, these ones got pigtails on the top and bottom because it's a coil spring car in the rear. So I think you got to order springs. And in the front, we'll probably just cut a couple of coils like we always do. I don't like heating coils, so we cut them, and they're usually pretty cheap. But this car sits obnoxiously high up front. Granted, we still got to put a radiator up there and put fluids in the engine, but it's not going to come down a whole lot. So, all right, that's where I think we're going to wrap this little section up until we run out of, until we get some parts, and we'll bring her back. We're getting close. Also, on the dipstick, I took the tube and I just turned it a little bit ahead, so it's kind of hard to get at, but you can still get at it. I don't know what we're going to do about the air cleaner. I tried bending that tab up right there, but it's still, see how this shape, the contour of the bottom is really wonky. It hits on this guy right here if we try to turn it, so I don't know what we're going to do with the air cleaner. I hate running them little chrome ones, and I don't really have much for stock GM 2-barrel air cleaners around. But I'll see if I can come up with something. Maybe I can find something that points off the other direction. I guess the way to do it right would be to cut this snorkel off and move it over, or cut the, yeah, that's about the only way to do it, is move that snorkel. We could dimple it, but that would just look absolutely hideous, and it would then ruin said air cleaner that already has a couple of additional holes drilled in it for who knows what reason. All right, we'll see you when we get a bunch more parts. This is our drive shaft that we took out of the 61 Bel Air 4-door post. It is a 6-cylinder cast iron power glide. We're putting it in the 63 hardtop, which if they had the same power glides, it'd be pretty much a direct bolt in. But the aluminum power glide is longer, so we did a bunch of measuring, and we took 2 inches out of it. First thing we did was we cut the weld out right there, didn't we, Duff? And then we knocked this yoke out of there. You don't want to cut her all the way through with a chop saw or a band saw, because you got to slip this cast iron piece that's turned down inside of the tube. You also want to mark it so that you make sure you get your yokes all in phase. We got to swap out this yoke. This slip yoke is a coarse spline for the early power glides and the 3-speeds. We need a fine spline for our aluminum power glide. We'll slide it together, we'll double check that it fits, and then we'll put it back in the lathe once again. That's how we cut that weld. We'll put it in the lathe to make sure it's true. We'll tack it, and then we'll test fit it, burn it in real good, and then we'll knock this U-joint out and put in our I think it's a 372 U-joint. The rest of them are 369s. We have to have a combination joint here so that we can run the universal joint, or run this yoke that's got a 534 joint. So 369 cross with a 534 is a 372. So easy peasy, lemon squeezy. We might have to do a little filing to get rid of the seam because it's not a seamless tube. Clean her up, knock her together, and then we got to put our new hanger bearing in there, and then we bolt our yoke on, put the universal joint in back there, and she's ready to go. Short and drive shaft, pretty easy. I would highly recommend having a lathe to do it to get them true, but you can do it in the car. Maybe we should do one in the car someday to show people how it can be done. Get a dial indicator, huh? Yeah. Oh, you love drive shafts. I know you do. You are a drive shaft making machine, Duff. Anyway, we got our lines lined up, so our yoke should be in phase. We got ourselves about a, I don't know, 1/8 inch 3/16 gap, so we can lay a nice big fat weld that'll weld the tube to this yoke, or whatever you call this, slug, sleeve, whatever. Before we do that, we'll put her in the lathe, make sure she's true, tack it, fit it, take it back out, make sure it fits. Or after we know it fits, then we'll burn her in real good. So, making a drive shaft, it's not rocket science, is it, Duff? Nope. You show them the drive shaft you made, Duffers? Here it is. New U-joint there, new U-joint there. Got our yoke bolted on, our new hanger bearing. Oh, push that rubber seal back in. And then we got her all burned in up here, shortened up. We got our 372 U-joint and our fine spline yoke. You can see these little scratches right there. So what we do is we chuck it up. We grab this with the 3-jaw chuck and we use a live center on that end. And then we spin it around until those lines touch almost all the way around. They'll be tight on one side and a gap on the other. So you tap it and then you just keep working your way around until you get her as straight as you can get it. I mean, we're within, I don't know. I'm not even gonna say a number because somebody will pick me apart. But and then you want to make sure that your universal joints are in phase, which we are. There's the top of it. There's the top of that one. And we test fitted it after we tacked it up, so she's ready to slide into the gold Impala. Fun stuff. If you got a lathe, you can shorten your own drive shafts at home. Or if you know somebody who's got a lathe. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. All right, now that we got our drive shaft together, I'm gonna put a new seal in the yoke on the rear end, and we're gonna slide the drive shaft in, and this thing's getting a lot closer. Also got a full exhaust kit, so we're gonna put that all up on there once I put the right exhaust manifolds, because the 67 ram horn manifolds are angled, and the factory 63, which the exhaust is for, are straight, so I need to scrounge some of them up. But anyway, you'll notice we got this thing up in the air. And you notice it's sponsored by Wildfire Lifts. And these guys are a great company to work with. You can either pick these things up from them, you can pick up your lift at a loading dock, or they'll bring it right to your shop if you've got a way to handle it. And since we've got that telehandler, we can lift this thing. So we took that, lifted it out of the trailer. Mojo and I set this thing up in basically an afternoon. Super easy to go together. This is a 9000 XLT, I believe, model. It's a little bit higher and a little bit longer. I have to look at the specs, but it's a really great product. I love it because I can store 2 vehicles in here. I can work on the top vehicle. We integrated some lights. Let's see if I can show you. We don't have them wired up yet, or we do, but I got a ring extension cord over. These are just some, what are they, 6-foot LEDs off of the Amazonia. And you could pigtail them together, and then we put some magnets on the backside so we can move them to shine up onto that car or down below to the car that you're working on below it, like that chopped F1. So yeah, Wildfire Lifts, check them out. They got a lot of different options. You don't have to anchor these things into the ground. They have wheels that go underneath them, so you can move them around. You can have them inside, you can have them outside. You don't have to have nearly as much headroom clearance or height clearance like you do with the 2-post lift. There's just a lot of great possibilities. And then we got the air over hydraulic lift with this thing. So we got the air jack. So that thing's really awesome for lifting cars up, changing tires, doing brakes, all that stuff. That is another option that they offer. It comes with a tray that rolls back and forth. Let me show you that. You think the lift's awesome, don't you, Duff? So we got this jack tray right here. So if you don't buy their jack kit, you can put a hydraulic floor jack in there or a bottle jack and lift your car up with that. It's got these ramps for driving on and off. It's got removable stops up here at the front so you don't drive off the front side. And this thing's totally reversible. You can spin this around. Right now we've got our controls at what I would say at the back corner of the shop, but you can spin it around so you could have them up here. Then you can take these stops out and move them to the back side, and then have the ramps at this end so you can load a car on either direction. 9,000 pound capacity. This thing goes up way higher than my 2-post lift. I love it. I think it goes up to like 6 foot 8 inches. I'm 6'2", so I got plenty of clearance to walk underneath it. Got plenty of clearance to drive pretty much anything underneath it, except for maybe Bernie wouldn't fit underneath it, would it, Duff? Or if you got some, you know, mud truck with some 40-inch super swampers. But anyway, let's go back in time and show you when I put this thing together. And while you guys watch me work a month and a half ago, or whatever time of the year it is, I'm gonna finish putting this drive shaft in, and I'm gonna put a new yoke seal in the front of that differential. We'll see after we get that lift all back together. We got ourselves a special little delivery showed up. Looks like Magnum Trucking showed up with our 4-post lift from Wildfire Lifts. So here's the old telehandler and get that unloaded. Exciting times here at the shop. Well, that's pretty handy. Even the Magnum truck driver said, wow, really appreciate it when guys got big equipment around to do this type of stuff. So this is our Wildfire 9,000 pound 4-post lift. Looks like part number is WF 9000 XLT. You can get these things either shipped to your house like we did. You got to have something to move it. I think it's 2,700 pounds, so even that thing's like 2,650 or 2,750. So that would have been a stretch, but you got to have a forklift or a telehandler or something. Otherwise, they can ship this to a loading dock, and you can pick it up there, or I believe you can pick it up straight from their warehouse. So let's get this thing unboxed, Duffers. Get her assembled, put something on it, and get to work. So we got everything unboxed. That guy was not so much help. And when you're doing this, make sure you got the recycling container empty for Greta, because you got that one full, got a pile of cardboard over there, that one's full, and that one is just about full. These things are packed real well. These drive-on pieces, super heavy. Uprights, not too bad. These, I would not suggest moving by yourself. I had Mojo come help lift that one off with the skid steer. You could probably do all this with a cherry picker and some floor jacks and a little bit of moving around. But I would highly recommend you have 2, maybe 3 or 4 people helping you out, because these are pretty heavy. These cross braces are, it's all well built. Those are pretty heavy. Uprights are heavy. We got the ramps over there, and then we got the drip pan over there. We got our dollies, we got our power unit. I think these are covers for all the pulleys and linkage system. And I think that's, I don't know what that is. The trolley that goes down the middle or something for putting the jack on, I'm guessing. I don't know. No idea what I'm doing here. Probably, maybe. Just kidding. Who knows? And then we got some other pieces. These are, I'm guessing, some guides for some slides, the destructions, some hydraulic hoses, some tube lines, some hardware. I think these go at the front of the drive-on pieces so you don't bonsai over the edge. I don't know. We'll see. See how she goes. But so far so good. Nothing looks damaged. Everything looks pretty well built. Let's get her put together. We're actually gonna read the instructions too. We're not just gonna wing it. Oh, we got another shipment that came with it as well. On a separate pallet, this is the money maker right here. This is the jack trolley system. It's air over hydraulic to, I believe it's air over it. Yeah, that's a hydraulic pump. And the air goes in it. So it's air over hydraulic for lifting stuff up. So that's what really makes this thing super friendly. Right, Duff? It's like, doesn't look friendly to me. You got no thumbs though. All right, let's get this thing assembled. Drive shaft's in. Anybody who's done one of these before knows that fishing that drive shaft through and lighting those hanger bolts up is a real treat. But we got the optimal amount of depth with the yoke up here, even though these don't really move because obviously it's stationary at the hanger bearing. And then I suppose it's gonna, I don't know where it moves, but apparently it doesn't move much because there's no slider back here. We got our yoke seal in, and yeah, pinion seal, whatever you want to call it. She's ready to go. Got our new exhaust kit here, but I gotta find some manifolds before we do that. Maybe we'll stick some shocks on. I don't know what we're gonna do. Sounds like a good idea. Do some shocks. Look at this modification we made to our wildfire lift. We took and got some Amazon LED lights and some magnets to hold them up there. And then you're gonna have to put an extension cord. Hopefully we can get her plumbed in permanently into that so we don't have to drag extension cords around. But then get some magnets with some hooks. Not only does it light up the workspace underneath, which is Duff approved, but you also get yourself some of these hooks and you get yourself a little paint booth. So not only does it free up space, utilizes the ceiling height you got in your shop. You can hang stuff from it to paint. Just all the goodness. Lifts, they're life-changing. So go check these guys out, Wildfire Lifts. All right, we got our air cleaner all painted up, so hopefully we'll get that thing installed. We'll be one step closer on the old 63. All right, here we are back with this thing. I thought this week I could get it wired up. I got to get the brakes bled, and then we got to work out all the kinks in this thing. But I think we're really, really close. I did like a full day's worth of wiring, and I swear I got nowhere. I got an American auto wire harness in this thing, and it's a really nice harness, but it's got a lot of quirks. It's set up for like high energy ignition and a one-wire alternator. I got an alternator with a regulator, and then I've got points ignition, so we had to put a ballast resistor in there. I had to get a one-wire alternator. Didn't come with the tumbler for the ignition switch. You got to crimp ends on. I need to make a new wire from the starter up the distributor, stuff like that, up to the coil. So there's just a lot of stuff, and nobody wants to watch people pull wiring. Wiring is a thankless job. If you're really good at it, nobody will ever even know, because it's not going to leave you on the side of the road, and nobody's going to see it if you're really good at it. I'm not really good at it. So there's that. Like I said, this thing, if we can get the brakes bled and get the tires on it, and I want to get some carpet in there, clean the interior a little bit, this thing is pretty much going to be ready for the road. We still need a window regulator for the driver's side, and I'm sure there's a bunch of other things that we're going to come across. We need to put the trim on, which probably isn't going to happen this year. If you really want to own this car, price and availability down below. Don't be scared of the number, or be scared of the number, because these things are really hard to come by in this condition, and I don't have anything that nice around, so we're gonna set the bar high on this one, because how often do you find a barn find 63 Impala in anniversary gold that's super dry, small block, automatic, factory AC car? It's got disc brake upgrades, we got power brakes now, we got aftermarket power steering instead of the Ram Assist stuff. It's got a semi-freshened up 283 Power Glide, all new driveline, all new exhaust, new wheels, new tires, new brakes all the way around. There's just a ton of stuff going on here, and this thing is going to be really great. Super solid car. So thank you very much for watching. Hopefully your comments will get me to get this car finished. We needed to get this video out because we just too busy around here. I wanted to get this car all cranked out in one video, but it didn't happen, obviously, because we're trying to work on this in between other projects, because we got to get a video done in a week, and obviously I couldn't have done all this in a week. So this is just about a year's worth of messing around in between projects, and wouldn't be near as far as I am without Mojo and the other help that I got around here, and Wildfire Lifts. Huge shout out to those guys. This lift has been great, other than the fact that we just store twice as much stuff in this stall. But it's great for painting stuff underneath. It's great for getting it up out of the way, raising it up in the air, working at a better level, working on the brakes, doing wheels, tires, all that good stuff. Exhaust, super handy to do exhaust and driveline stuff. But that being said, I think we're gonna wrap it there, and I'm gonna try to get back plugging away at doing the wiring on this thing. We tried to steal a bunch of steering parts out of this car and put in my wagon, because I got my wagon out of storage this week, and that thing fired right up, runs great, but as soon as you hit the brakes and go around a corner, she doesn't, the wheel's gonna fall off. So I was gonna try to put the power steering stuff out of this car on it, just to limp her through for the season. I haven't decided if I'm gonna rebuild the whole front end of this car or convert. What we really need to do is take the disc brakes, and power brakes, and power steering, all the stuff off of that car, and put on the wagon, but that won't happen. But we got it out, we got it running this year. Unfortunately, we gotta throw some money at it. So thank you very much for watching. Check out our other videos. Check out the merch, mortske.com. We got caps, we got magnetic koozies, we got magnetic screwdrivers, we got banners, we got decals, we got keychains, we got it all. Check it out, mortske.com. Thank you very much for watching. Remember, it doesn't matter how you get it done, as long as you're having fun. And projects are a whole lot more fun when they are done. of the symbol.